Hello, and welcome to Everything You Love, Episode 1, with me, Rob Arnold. All right, Episode 1. This show and every show is going to be all about answering your questions, telling stories, talking about gear, guitars, drums, recording, chatting with fans, friends, all sorts of cool stuff. But in Episode 1 here, it's going to be all about answering questions. Recently, I asked on social media if anybody had any questions so I could get this show launched and off the ground, and I just got a ton of them. So many that it's going to take me episodes to answer them all. So just randomly chose a few for today that I'm going to try to get to. And if I don't get to your question today, just stay tuned because I'll get to it on a later episode. I encourage people to ask more questions. You want to comment on something that you're hearing today, or you got more questions, please just ask in the comment section below, and I encourage people to vote those up or down. I got so many just killer comments from people, so many people that express their adoration for the Chimera catalog and just the songs and all of my work, and I want you to know how much that stuff means to me. It's so awesome to hear. So I want to thank everybody that left a question or a comment. Cheers to you all. One last thing before we get started, I'd like to give one big shout out to someone who really helped inspire me get this show going. A lot of you have heard his name before, Mr. Ola England. He's a guitar player from Sweden, super talented guy, has a super successful YouTube channel where he does question and answer, stuff like this, gear reviews, interviews with people, and it's just really good stuff. Just recently, I hadn't even really ever checked out his channel or anything. I knew who he was, but recently a friend of mine said, hey, he mentioned you on one of his shows. I guess somebody had asked him a question about me, and he answered that question and gave me a lot of props, and it was really cool. So I saw that, and I really got engaged into his show. I thought to myself, wow, this is really well done and super interesting. And so then I spent a couple days binging down this rabbit hole of all his material, and it's just really, really cool. So while I had been thinking about doing a show just like this, answering some questions for everybody on a regular basis, it just kept getting pushed to the back burner. And after seeing Ola's channel, he really gave me that kick in the ass that I needed to get going with this, to show me that I could do it, and that you got to start somewhere no matter what venture you're going on in life. So check out his channel, subscribe to it. He's got a brand new solo record too, Master of the Universe. I checked that out, just got that. It's awesome. Instrumental type record. It's totally got that Swedish sound. It reminds me of Opeth, Bloodbath, At the Gates, Haunted. He's also the guitar player for Haunted, one of them. So that's really cool. So yeah, again, subscribe to his channel. Buy his new album, Master of the Universe. You'll really like it. And thank you, Ola, again, for helping me get started. Although we've never met, we're always going to have that 6 feet under connection. Okay, so let's get into it. Question number 1. Anthony Adamski wants to know, how the hell do you play Stig Murder? Are you Italian? Why the hell did you guys break up in the first place? How is Andals doing? Why did Mark change the whole band? No offense, huge fan, but that was dumb. There's so much to ask, but really, how do you play Stig Murder? That first part, how do you play Stig Murder? Are you Italian? I wonder, is that supposed to be, how the hell do you play Stig Murder? Are you Italian? Why the hell did you break up in the first place? Etc., etc. Or is it, how the hell do you play Stig Murder? Are you Italian or something? You know, like, I'm going to take that as separate questions. So, am I Italian? I don't think so. I didn't think so. Actually, had to call and ask my dad. I checked in with him, texted him, said, what nationality are we again? Turns out, Polish, German, Dutch, and Swiss. which makes sense because I love visiting all those places and love the food from all those places. So, hey, all right. Second, why the hell did you guys break up in the first place? Well, lots of reasons. Bands break up. It's like a marriage, you know? Except there are no rules. There are more rules in a marriage, you know? There are no rules in a band, and therefore everyone's emotions and egos and everything run wild a lot of the time, and it's hard to keep it locked down when there's just so many outside forces, just a lot of varying things. We couldn't keep the ship afloat, buddy. I know it sucks. I'm disappointed. We're all disappointed. But seems like, you know, maybe we're towing it off the bottom of the ocean here, and we'll see what happens. How is Andals doing? I don't really know. As far as I know, okay. I think he's getting by. I don't really know what he's doing. We have one of those relationships where I just, you know, if I were to text him right now or call him up, we'd just pick right back up where we left off. So we don't really have one of those relationships where I just check in on him all the time or whatever. It's great that everybody's concerned. We're concerned too. We hope he's doing well. In my mind, I have this fantasy that he's going to call up and be like, hey guys, let's do this. I'm ready. And then boom, we go. So it's good to know everybody loves Andals. I love Andals. He's certainly a special player. There's something special about his playing that everybody just likes so much. And I was fortunate to run into him in high school. Fortunate that we got together in this band. And I have an album that he and I did a few years ago that's just not ready yet. I'll get into that a little bit more later. Why did Mark change the whole band? No offense, huge fan, but that was dumb. Mark did what he had to do. I probably would have done the same thing. When things didn't work out, he decided to push onward. It was his band. He started the band. It's his. People that said he should have changed the name and all that, well, everybody has a right to their opinion. And, you know, he tried. I commend him for that. He got a group of great players together and kept going. But in the end, it just didn't work out. And it's hard for 3 guys, 4 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys to keep it together for a long time. It would have been great if we could have. But, again, Mark did what he had to do. You got another album out of it, right? Crown of Phantoms. But really, how do you play Stig Murder? Let's see. Stig Murder. There it is. Anyways, I thought of 3 fun facts about Stig Murder, as a matter of fact. One is that, according to my recollection, Stig Murder was the very first song written for The Impossibility Reason. So you can see the style we are in with Pass Out, 7 strings, everything like that. And then I knew that we were going to head in this thrashier direction. That's what I wanted to do. And maybe some riffs I was playing, Matt was playing, whatever, you know, guys were like, oh, that's cool, you know, sort of. So we went into this path of immediately getting super thrashy and heavy with Stig Murder. And it kind of set the tone. Not that all of Impossibility ended up like that. Obviously, there's songs like Pictures in the Gold Room, Crawl, which is cool. There's a lot of dynamics to the record as well. But that set us in the direction that, oh, this is what we're going to do. So another fun fact is that was the first song that we recorded into a computer and were able to program some drums to it and do some arranging things within a computer. I remember being in Spacuzza's basement. He was the guru with software and all that, and he's like, yeah, I got this. I think it was Cubase or something. He's like, yeah, I got this software. We can record the instruments into here, and then I'm sure he really wanted to do that anyways because then he could layer his stuff with MIDI and all that into the computer. Where before that, our main source of hearing ourselves or listening back to what we had worked on in the practice space was videotaping our songs, and then like Mark would take the videotape home and like dump it onto tape or CD and distribute it to us so we can listen to it in our cars so that we could think about arrangements and practice our parts at home and everything. I mean, it was just a, you know, a process. I mean, we didn't know that there was going to be anything better at the time, so it was what it was. But once the computer came along, and well, some of you have heard recently, I have a lot of reservations about that whole thing and what it does to songwriting. We still wrote every song together in the room for the impossibility reason. But again, when Stig Murder, well, for that record set, for that album writing session where we wrote all the songs, we wrote them all together in the rehearsal spot, but we were able to demo some stuff into the computer and hear it back. And that was like a new thing to be able to hear it like that, be able to make decisions about what to do, all that kind of stuff. And finally, this is Jim's least favorite song. He hates it. Jim, why do you hate Stig Murder? We'll ask him soon. Okay, Skritzmeyer or Skritzmeyer wants to know what amps and processors did I use in the studio mostly. Most of the time we'd show up with our typical live rig, which would be a PV6505 Plus or 5152 before the 6505s through a Mesa cabinet, and we try to dial in the best tone we could get. No real processes or anything. Of course, every engineer behind the desk in the studio, he's selecting what microphone to use through what preamp channel, and then how to process that through EQ and things like that. So that was different with every engineer for every record. I know Ben always preferred a Royer 121 on the cabinets. And then Ben would also be like, okay, this sounds cool. Let's try a Bogner cab and this Uberschall head. Or we tried some Engel stuff for a while. We just experiment. But I'd say, and this is common knowledge, that the meat and potatoes of the Chimera guitar sound is PV amplifiers through Mesa Boogie cabs. No real effects. Both Matt and I are meat and potatoes type players. I run a GSP 1101, which is made by Digitech just for my effects, and I really only just put that on when I'm playing solos to add a little bit of delay, maybe a little bit of verb. I also have like a pitch effect set up on there, which replicates the Digitech whammy pedal to give me that harmony sound. I'll have like a fifth harmony setup, an octave harmony setup, and that's really it. Maybe I got like a phaser on there or some chorus if I want to go to clean, but it's pretty simple. Nothing crazy whatsoever. Fulci Livesman wants to know, is it true that Dimebag asked to do a solo on The Impossibility Reason? That's the first I'm hearing of it. I'm going to say that I totally doubt it. I have two Dimebag stories that I'll tell quickly. The first is in 2003, I think we were in Wisconsin and we were playing the Ozfest there. And throughout the day, all of a sudden a rumor happened that Dime and Vinny were there and that they were going to play Walk with Disturbed. And so like I'm standing there near the main stage talking to Matt DeVries, and Dime is walking right towards us. And it was the first time I ever felt starstruck. I got huge butterflies in my stomach. I'm like, holy shit, here comes Dime. Dime walks right up to us. What's up, guys? You know, super cool, just like Dime from the Vulgar video, from the Pantera videos. We're like, what's up? You know, obviously big fans. We play in a band called Chimera. He's like, oh, Chimera? I heard of you guys. Hey, I'm going to go do this thing real quick, and afterwards, let's meet up for shots. And we're like, yeah, sounds great. So he turns back around, does the set with Disturbed. They play Walk. I think Matt and Mark and maybe Jim went on stage and were singing into his mic. Vinny was on the drums. It was totally awesome. I just stayed back and took it all in, and then we never ended up meeting up with Dime afterwards, so it was cool. Just talking to him was badass enough. But then, a couple years later, we were playing either Rock'em Ring or Rock'em Park, which is a huge festival in Germany, and Damage Plan was there playing, and they had a real early slot in one of the days. I want to say they were going on at like 10 a.m., which is a tough time to go on, especially when you're partying hard the night before. So I get up. Chimera happened to be going on, I don't know, 5 p.m. that day or something like that. But I get off the bus, and there's Dime standing behind our bus, kind of just warming up, standing in this dirt backstage area. I'm like, whoa. I walk right up. I don't expect him to remember me or recognize me or anything. So I just pretended it was like the first time again. I'm like, Dime, great to meet you, man. Awesome. And he's just like, what's up, man? I imagine he was totally hungover, and he was cool. He was nice and everything, but he was not the Dime from the home videos. Not the Dime I met, the 5 o'clock p.m. Dime that everybody knows or whatever. But this was real life, early in the morning Dime, who wasn't feeling it, who needed a black tooth. But his solos were still impeccably perfect 20 minutes later when he was ripping on stage with Damage Plan, and the legend will live forever. Rest in peace, Dime. Okay, Lukeski wants to know, what's the most ridiculous thing you've ever put on a rider for a gig? Well, first, a rider, for those of you who don't know, is what a band requests before their gig that to be at the venue for them. When a band's touring from city to city, they can't go to the store all the time, usually. So they have the venue where they're going to play, or the theater, or the arena, or whatever, provide what they need for the day in terms of their groceries, beer, water, towels, cigarettes, whatever they want to have there, because they can't go get it themselves. The venue will provide on their rider, hopefully. Anyways, I'm not a guy that would put crazy things on a rider. You know, I don't know. I just don't think of that. I wouldn't want to waste it on, something crazy. I'd rather have all the things I really want, which at a band at Chimera's level, you hope that they'll fulfill your rider every night. And if you do, I mean, the bigger you are, like you better guarantee that if there's even a single item missing off of Trent Reznor's rider, that whoever's in charge that day is going to hear about it. But for Chimera, if we want Chateau LeBlanc 64, they might replace it with a bottle of Super Saver Woodbridge Chardonnay. I don't know, whatever. So, anyways, I don't ask for crazy things. But this got me thinking. There are so many times when I get a question that I think to myself, Mark would know the answer to this. Mark has an incredible memory. He can tell you crazy details all the time. And there's so many times where I thought, I wish Mark could answer this question. So let's have Mark answer the question. Let me hit him up. Yo.
Hey, what's happening?
Welcome. How's it going? Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for picking up, How's it been going?
Going well, man. Just hanging out and trying to stay awake. Last time we spoke, I was tired.
Yeah. Well, did you catch up a little?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So, so often I get questions that I just think, man, Mark would be able to better answer this, or you just know like I mentioned the other day, your just knowledge of the timeline and for the little details and stuff has always been impressive. So I don't know if any of these questions are going to dive like deep into the timeline. They may or whatever, but there's a few of them that I just definitely thought Mark will be better at answering this, or it'd just be fun if you answered it. Okay.
All right, so good.
Okay, so no particular order, anything like that, but a guy named Lukeski asks, what's the most ridiculous thing you've ever put on a rider for a gig? I thought for sure you guys have done some pranks in the past, all that, and you gotta, something ridiculous to put on the rider?
Man, there's been a lot. So I think it started when one of our tour managers, I believe it was Sounds of the Underground, he also tour managed Snoop Dogg, and he showed us Snoop Dogg's rider. And Snoop Dogg's rider had all these ridiculous things on there, like he demands an Xbox and or a PlayStation with all of the latest games and at each venue, and then he collects all of the games and then gives them away to friends and family at the end of the tour, which I thought was cool. And he shows me Bone Thugs and Harmonies, and it had like cartons of Newports and like extra tickets so they could scalp them, and like all this just like crazy stuff. So the whole discussion of like riders and ridiculous riders started becoming a thing. And then there was a website called The Smoking Gun. And they had a bunch of riders. And so I think Chrys and I started to try to get really creative and update our rider to have some ridiculous things on there. I can't remember anything specific, but I think we had it dialed in where the language was just absolutely ridiculous because we had seen somebody else's. So to give an example, it would be like, have your minions there, slaves ready to open our trailer up.
Yeah.
Just stupid things like that. But I know we've asked for things like socks, and we did it on purpose because promoters hated that kind of stuff. Like they had to go get socks. Yeah. We got pretty into it though.
No, any weird food things or anything? Like what was the what's the one with Steve Buscemi and those guys where they want like a football helmet full of cottage cheese?
Yeah. No, I don't think we did anything like food related, but I have no idea. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I might have asked for stuff like an eye patch at one point. Because
I thought you were going to say an iPad. What would they say if you put an iPad on there? But the eye patch, yeah.
An eye patch.
The pirate days.
iPad.
All right. So I just sent you a pic here. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that pic right there, the next one, Ant Atomic wants to know, did Mark just crack a fart in this pic? So obviously there's no way I would know, but I'll bet that if someone did, it's got to be Jim. Now, looking at that picture, and look at Jim and Matt, like just everybody that looks to me like a picture like Jim would have just cracked a huge fart, and that's what we're laughing at. Would you agree?
I agree, and yeah, it's definitely not me. I wasn't the farter of the band, but I also wouldn't put it past one of us to be busting balls about somebody.
Totally.
The way Kevin is looking at Jim maybe indicates that.
Yeah.
He said, I remember Kevin was getting his balls busted a bit during that time frame too. But yeah, if anyone, it's Jim farting or saying something like to bust balls on somebody.
Do you think we Newsteaded Tally? Treated him like Newstead, how Metallica treated Newstead?
Yeah, definitely. Weird dicks. At least me and Scapuzzo were.
Yeah, hey, well, he's got thick skin, so I don't think
he definitely did.
I don't think he holds any grudges.
He was a little crazy, man, but in a funny way. He would just do what was asked. Like, I think you had a bunch of friends and family one time up in the front lounge, and me and Spacuzza were back there, and Tally was back there, and he was wasted, and we're like, hey, man, why don't you go take your clothes off and run up in front of Rob's family? And he did.
Yeah.
He, ran through the front lounge naked.
I don't remember that. I do remember another time where he came into the dressing room and was just like, all right, let's do some coke or something like that. And then he closed the door and my parents are just standing right behind it. You know what I'm saying? Because we had been sitting there talking or whatever. So, yeah, but...
streaking in Japan, too. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. Yeah, he ran across the stage naked. That was awesome. Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, good old Tally. Hello, Kevin, if you ever watch this or you're listening. All right. Dave Fatbuds. Wants to know, will there ever be a Kimura B-Sides and Rarity box set, like a collection of demos, unreleased tracks, and live material?
No, I would just suggest putting it all together on a playlist or something, because the problem with that would be there's so many labels involved and the rights to the music. I'm sure many fans know at this point musicians don't tend to own the rights to their own music unless they're self-releasing it. So what that means is we record the songs and we write them, but the person that's investing, or the label in this case, that's investing the money into you generally owns the masters. So because of that, it would just be complex, and it's really not a sellable thing. It's more of a rarity and oddity. Like if you were to make them, you'd be lucky to sell over 500.
Yeah. All right. Well, sorry to disappoint some people. But,
you're out of luck, man.
Yeah. Okay.
But do you swear on this channel?
Sure, I don't care. Yeah.
does that get you demonetized?
I tell you. Well, I haven't reached monetization yet, so I'm gonna bleep them.
Bleep or something.
I'm gonna bleep them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just in case, because you never know.
Of course.
You never know. All right, this is a good one. What? Read this name here. Connor P. Dalton wants to know what made you guys want to have someone handling samples, etc., in the band, and were you conscious of keeping it at a tasteful level? Also, do you think bands nowadays would be more conscious of adding an additional member because it's another slice to have to cut out of the pie? So
that's a good point to make, and certainly not something we were thinking about back then. I don't even think there was a pie to cut.
Yeah.
Stuff. My inspiration personally was because I'm cut from a few different cloths of the hard rock and heavy metal scene. So one of them being industrial music, and bands like Nine Inch Nails or Ministry were also influential to my upbringing and musical tastes. So, and then of course we were also starting out around the time when nu metal, which wasn't really even a thing at the time, but you were starting to see more and more bands come together and had some sort of electronic elements to them, whether they were a DJ or something like that. So I think we were a little caught up in that, but we wanted to do it a little bit differently, more of the industrial vibe than the hip hop vibe that the DJs were doing. So this way we could be a little more abrasive instead of like a kind of sound. And then, but slicing the pie, that definitely makes things difficult the more people you add into it. Like, just go back to MC Hammer. We should have learned from that. The guy had a massive entourage and lost all his money. But having a sixth member, it does complicate things, but it made us unique in a way that it was we were able to replicate those sounds in a more organic fashion than having to be tamed or whatever, as you will, to the click track. So our live show, with the exception of the Christmas show, was more ferocious, and kind of was able to do this a lot more in the set because we weren't bound to a click track, and we had an actual guy playing the samples, which I don't know if that was good or not, but it felt good playing it anyway.
One thing I always liked was that we had like some ambient music or whatever going on in between songs. There was never like any dead time in the show, you know?
Yeah, and that helps so much too, because we need to get drinks or...
It's just no
awkward.
Silence.
Awkward silence, especially in Japan.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, people in Japan, right after your song's done, they're yeah! And they stop and wait to hear what you're going to say next or do next, you know? There's no ongoing cheering or, you know... Woo!
Play some old shit.
Yeah. Nothing like that. Yeah, I don't even know if there were any requests or anything. Just they'd take it as we gave it to them. One other, I just thought of an analogy. You know, it's a slice of the pie, or I'll use a slice of a pizza. Fortunately, Chris's slice of pizza was so worth it, adding that sixth member, because he was like a super supreme piece of pizza rather than like just a piece of cheese or whatever, with so much he added to make our band flourish with all he brought. He's a wizard with artwork and computers and all that, and just really helped take the whole project into a great direction with his skill of that, you know?
Yeah, I think about this too often, and I'm not sure many fans know this, but like, we did our first EP. Chrys wasn't in the band, but he was hanging out with us even at the studio, and kind of started expressing interest right then and there. He kind of saw that we were doing things, and then whereas his band was more or less just hanging out and not as active. Weren't they watching TV all the time?
I wanted to give my recollection of that. Yes, Spikuza was in a band called Fermandify that practiced right next to us at this big rehearsal spot, but they had the coolest rehearsal spot. There was just like centerfold models up and lights everywhere and huge TV, and but all they do, it sounded like whatever was sit and watch TV and listen to music and stuff like that, you know. Right. So they would just hang out, you know. Once in a while you'd hear some songs or whatever, but yeah, Chrys started coming around, seeing what we were doing and stuff like that. And I remember we jammed a couple times because he was playing bass in that band. And then one day, just at Pizza Hut, we were out back when we were both working there, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about adding Chrys to the band. What do you think?" That was the first time that it was ever brought up. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, I tried to play you some 9 Inch Nails, and you were just like, it's just not very corpsey, for me.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I'm not a big 9 Inch Nails guy or whatever, but trust me,
okay.
Now I realize just the cool element that helps set us apart, and that it's all that is just so much of what makes up the sound that people dig.
Yeah, sure. And I was also going to say too, once Chrys joined, he brought into the table introducing us to the PRP, which helped get our name on the internet, which was still in its infancy as far as promotion was concerned, and then introduced us to our first manager who wound up helping us facilitate our record deal. So he was a big integral supreme pizza as you put him.
So many pieces to the puzzle. Yeah, and cool website, theprp.com. Huge support for us back in the day, and still a great site I check every single day, just as part of my routine, just to see what's going on in metal and hardcore and all that,
Yep.
So, okay, here's a weird one. I don't want it to get uncomfortable because I don't really even know what it's referring to, but
okay.
Sanchez Radio 263 says, what happened in Longview, Texas that caused the Kimura breakup, and was it the Mexican food? Please share.
Absolutely nothing happened in Longview, Texas, other than it being a pretty shitty show from what I remember. It wasn't very well attended. We knew it was the last show of the tour.
Okay, so that was the last. You knew it was. Okay.
Yeah. And, everyone was ready to go home. And we had just played a couple really good shows in Texas. Texas has always been a great market for us.
Totally.
And, but that show was just very poorly attended, maybe 50 to 100 people. I don't remember. And then I remember one of the annoying things as a singer is they allowed people to still smoke in the venue, smoke cigarettes. And it was a tinier venue, so of course I'm just getting hotboxed with cigarette smoke the whole show, which is never fun.
Yeah.
But there was nothing in particular that led to the demise that day. It was just a man, I can never say that word.
A culmination?
A culmination of all of the things. It's one of those words that just doesn't roll off the tongue for me.
Yeah.
Of the whole tour just not being very well promoted and very successful, and we weren't making much money. I went home, I think it was, I can't remember if it was a 4 or 6 week tour, but I profited $1,200 from the tour. So that was including merch and ticket sales combined. So again, someone mentioned about the pie, so that's between 6 people. So it doesn't sound like a lot to be only profiting around $7,000 to $8,000, but the marquee value of the band went down once the classic lineup was no longer. So we were only able to get around $1,200 to $1,500 a night. And then if only 100 people are showing up, how much merch can we possibly do? Mm-hmm. So the fact we made anything was kind of a miracle. And it just gets under everybody's skin. And nobody wants to do that kind of... Everyone knew we weren't going to make shit going into it. So how excited are you to be?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely tougher to try to survive on that. That'd be $300 a week. When we first started the band, we didn't get paid anything or whatever. But if we were told that we'd get $300 a week to go out on tour, that'd be the shit. But
right.
When you're, 35 or however you're old or whatever,
exactly.
And you have a mortgage back home and everything like that, that's really not, that's going to just add some stress to your life to only bring home $300 a week,
Yeah, and it sucked. Not only that did that suck, but we had to cancel a tour before that. We were supposed to go to Europe, and I wound up getting pneumonia and was told if I flew that my lung would explode. So,
you weren't willing to risk that for the fans?
I didn't want to. So
you can survive with one?
Yeah. I have 2.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't want to risk it, so that also lost the band, the company, a lot of money. So, it was just a whole bunch of factors, and
yep,
a lot of it, just winds up boiling down.
Yep, it's tough. That and just all part of the timeline. Something that happened, nothing you could do. It's every band has the ups and downs and struggles and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard you say try to survive. You should go like ding every time like you accidentally say it from your title.
I'll do that. Great idea. Okay. Yeah, my left arm is paralyzed. Yeah. Okay, so Dorky's Dorkles Bingleton wants to know, how did you guys feel about the new wave of American heavy metal moniker, and did you feel like you were a part of the new wave? First, before you answer that, anytime if it comes up in a certain way, when somebody asks me about the new wave of American heavy metal moniker, I say to them, and I wanted to know first if this is true or not, or if I'm right or wrong, that you came up with that one day, like back before any of those bands had been called that, when we were still just playing Cleveland. Maybe we had done a regional show here or there or whatever, but you had said, oh, we're part of the new wave, or we are the new wave of American heavy metal, and then you had shirts made up of it for us that had the NWOAHM on the back that I'm sure some people still have. I probably have one. It was in the Iron Maiden font and everything, and I feel that you came up with that idea and the press graphed onto it, and then all of a sudden the new wave of American heavy metal moniker was born that was used worldwide. Am I wrong about that?
You're not wrong. You're just a little hazy on the timeline of when it was created.
What's new, right?
With the it was definitely something that we were on tour with. It must have been Kitty in 2002.
Okay,
right?
So we were obviously out doing a bunch of stuff. Right?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. In between Slayer, because now I want to say Wedge was with us. Sound guy and tour manager Wedge, and we were always listening to a lot of Iron Maiden when Wedge was around, and he would play Iron Maiden before we went on stage every night. And there's a picture floating around. I'll send it to you so you can add it to this. When I knocked my tooth out on the Slayer tour, and I had a giant afro, and I'm wearing an Iron Maiden shirt. I want to say, we started, getting into everything right around there. We made a Chimera Iron Maiden backstage pass, and then
that's right.
Then the next step would be, I think we were headlining, and I want to say 36 Crazy Fists, and who else was on that tour? Maybe Diecast.
Yeah.
Connor's band.
Time is the Enemy, but they weren't called that then. Or were they? They were Time is the Enemy then, and now they're All Hail the Yeti.
I think so. But anyway, we were just listening to a lot of old metal, a lot of old British metal. Like Jim and I come from that era. So these are the bands that basically the new wave of British heavy metal are the bands that influenced Metallica and Slayer and kind of the bands that we were all influenced by. So it was kind of just like a quick play on the word to change it from British to American. And then we made the font with the Iron Maiden logo. And, I'm actually even looking up right now to see, was Iron Maiden even a new wave of British heavy metal band? I think they were. I always thought they were considered one, but I didn't have the internet back then to double check it. But anyway, we were definitely influenced by Venom. That was the new wave of British heavy metal band we were into, and then Jim liked Sirith Ungol and stuff like that. But anyway, so that's what it was a play on. And we definitely came up with it, and then the press definitely ran with it. And I remember Metal Hammer, not to throw them under the bus, but we did an interview, I want to say, I don't remember, but he asked me this question, and I've always kind of been humble about it, I don't know, I feel like we came up with it, but who knows? And whereas now I'm going to be like, no, we came up with that shit. But in the interview, this guy, the journalist, twisted it to the Metal Hammer coined phrase, new wave of American heavy metal. And I was like, this motherfucker. And then that's kind of the point where I was like, no, I'm just going to take credit for this. I'm not going to try to be humble because I don't see any evidence to ever suggest, yeah, it was Iron Maiden, was new British heavy metal. I thought they were. I'm just having a brain fart. Anyway, there's no evidence to suggest that it was around before us. And we put it also not only on a shirt, but the sampler CD for Impossibility of Reason, which I have.
I'll have to look for that. I probably do as well then.
Yeah.
Okay. So one final question here for this session. And because I'd like to make this something at any time, almost like a lifeline. You know, got a question? Let's call Mark.
All right.
This one made me think of you because it says, who does, or you do great impressions and like voice impersonations and everything, okay? So I don't know that you do this particular one. I'm going to guess you do, but if not, feel free to do whatever. But it says, who does the best impression of Bill Cosby's voice? The key here is voice, nothing else. No Bill Cosby?
No way, man. That's a tough one. No, yeah, plus since I had the throat surgery, I'm not able to inflect as much as I have. I've never tried to do that. You know who the best guy is? Eddie Murphy. Hands down does the best Bill Cosby impression.
What about Eddie Murphy?
Like, was it Delirious or was it Raw? I can't remember, but he's doing the whole bit with his, that's the best one by far. He does the best. I can't do it.
Okay.
I used to be able to do, who would I always do was that Cleveland from
Family Guy.
Yeah.
Family Guy. Well, how about you sign off in Cleveland's voice? Sorry, Danable the Cannibal. He doesn't do a Bill Cosby.
I can do it in Tom Anderson's voice. That'd probably be a little easier.
That's great. I remember from the beginning of the band, you've been doing this, the large fry and everything.
Like a large fry, large coffee. So another impression I'm known for is Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. When don't worry, was she a great big fat person?
Love it.
The other day I texted Laura and I was like, oh wait. And then she just replies, was she a great big fat person?
That's perfect. All right. Well, thanks, Mark. I know I enjoyed it. Hopefully the fans do here too. Some cool stuff, something we've never done. I've never interviewed you, or chatted like this or whatever. So, let's do it again. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, take her easy.
See you.
All right, well, that was cool. And thanks again to Mark. And he said we could go ahead and hit him up anytime. So we'll probably do that. Have a little segment, Ask Mark. Anytime I don't know something, he probably will. All right, we got time for one more, I think, here. I actually think this is going to be a pretty long episode. But hey, why not for the first one? How much of, Dale Gorham wants to know, how much of the music did you write for the Resurrection album? Love it so much. Thank you. The documentary shows the recording process, but I was wondering about the demos. Also, what have you been doing since Chimaira ended to maintain stable living? Well, to sum it up, I wrote a good portion. I wrote and arranged a good portion of the Chimaira material. But I always wanted, I don't really seek a bunch of credit. In the early Chimaira days, I always wanted just equality between everyone. I didn't think of it like, oh, I wrote this. It was the band's effort. Everything that I was putting towards the band, let me back up for a sec. It's natural for musicians to want credit for what they've done, especially in situations where different session musicians or people that aren't in a band come together. Some guy comes and plays sax on a song. He wants his credit for that, and especially if the song gets big, he's going to want to get paid for that. And that's all normal, and it's typical. It's what happens in the music industry. There are guidelines set up for that. But in a band, it's just a bunch of guys in high school, right out of high school. There aren't really like guidelines, and I wanted it to be this thing where everyone just got equal credit for everything. It didn't matter who wrote what. But I did always like how in the Metallica albums, you would see under a song Hetfield, Ehrlich, or Hetfield, Hammett, stuff like that. And it would indicate who wrote the majority of that song. I always thought that was cool. So the only credit that I did ask for with Chimaira was that I wanted that too. So in a lot of the songs, you'll see whatever it is. Hunter Arnold, Arnold DeVries, there's songs where it's all of us listed. So if you really want to know that nitty gritty stuff, then you can look in all the albums, and I'm pretty sure it's listed in all of them. Under the song title there, it should say who put forth the bulk of the material for that song, or what combination of musicians and stuff. And that's good enough for me. For the people that really want to seek that out and find that out, it is there without displaying it right on the front page or something. Okay, and what have I been doing since Chimera ended to maintain a stable living? The day after Chimera ended for me, I came and started building my recording studio here. And it used to be one big open room. I know your current view doesn't allow you to see how big the place is, but it was one big open room, and this is where Chimera used to jam. And I took over the place as my own after I left the band, and I started putting up walls to build the recording studio with the sole intent of building a studio, buying gear, and teaching myself to record so that I could make the Elite record, which 6 years later was released and is the Elite's Total Destruction. An album I couldn't be more proud of. If you haven't, I hope you'll check that out. But I didn't think that I was going to get right back into a record deal like I was in with Chimera. Making records costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time if you want to make something that sounds professional. So I wanted to beat the system by just building the studio, because to make the record, the majority of the costs are spent at the studio for the engineer, recording time, building that you're using, the mastering, artwork. So I just figured I'm going to build my own studio and not have to worry about that. I can just create and release music as I please. The reality of it was, though, when you're just working on your own stuff all the time, that doesn't bring in any income. Hopefully there'll be a payoff at the end when you put the album out and you can sell it, but that's a complete gamble. But during that time, while you're making the record, you got to pay the bills somehow. So I began working with local bands from the area and recording them and helping them make their music. And that evolved more into mixing remotely for guys. With technology today, the ability for guys to record their own tracks at home from anywhere in the world and then send them those tracks digitally to someone like me with whom they trust my taste and ability to craft and polish and mix their tracks into something that hopefully resembles the vision that they've had in their head of how they want their music to sound. That's what mixing is. It's bringing together all the tracks and making them sound cohesive and balanced with the right volume and just having a polished, professional sounding song or album. So that's what I've been doing. I also wanted to mention that, as many of you know, I recorded an album with Andals Herrick for my solo project. It's an instrumental record that we did years ago, but I know a lot of you are wondering what's going on with that. And it all ties together with the fact that I've been working with other guys to help them make their music just to supplement my income at home, and therefore I can't work on that album with Andals. And that's why it took so long to put the Elite record out, because I can only chip away at those things in what little free time I have. So because I want to get these songs out, and I believe in them, they're fantastic. I still listen to them almost every day and just dream about what they're going to be in the end, because currently right now, all Andals parts were recorded a few years ago when we put the songs together, but a lot of it's still my demo guitars, my scratch guitars that we just put in that I still need to re-record. I need to lay down some solos, and then I need to mix the record, get the artwork ready, package it. All that just takes a lot of time that I'd like to accomplish. And so I've been brainstorming. How can I get this done? What can I do? And I've come to the conclusion that I wanted to start creating all this content online here to build awareness of the record, because that's how important this record is to me and getting it out there. And through a website called Patreon. A lot of you have heard of Kickstarter. Maybe you even contributed to the old Chimera Kickstarter back in the day, and that's pledging money to help the artist do something. So I've created a Patreon page, and it's a great way to help support creators and ideas you love. Patreon is like Kickstarter, but for ongoing projects that continually produce content you find interesting. Your pledge can be thought of as a contribution towards something you believe in and want to support and find value in, or a very generous thank you. You can set up a monthly pledge that fits your budget, either choose a designated amount, or pledge as much as you'd like. You can change or cancel your pledge at any time, no questions asked. You receive incentives for your generosity at every pledge level, and you become a part of a bigger picture that helps me produce higher quality content. I'm always going to be producing content in one fashion or another, and my videos will always be free. And so if you can't contribute, that's totally cool. I hope you enjoy the stuff. But if you can contribute, if a few bucks a month just to set aside that you don't think about doesn't affect you in any way, know it affects me in a big way. That a collection of that would allow me to just focus my time completely on finishing this project. And that's my goal here, to get this record out. The music is special, and the incentives I've created include having your name listed within the production credits for the album, which I think is a cool concept. If I could have had my name somehow on Master of Puppets, even though I was probably like 6 years old when it came out, but for example's sake, if I could have been involved in that, an investment in that, to know that I was part of what became such a monster record, I think that'd be really special. And so that opportunity didn't exist back then, but it does now, thanks to sites like Patreon, where you can get involved and be a part of that campaign that supports the project to create something. And in this case, it's primarily based around my solo record with Anders Herrick that I know you're gonna love. It's amazing. If you're interested in finding out more, patreon.com/RobArnoldWorld. I want to thank everybody that's made it this far today. I know it's been a long video, and I really appreciate it. Follow me on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, @RobArnoldWorld, just to stay up with what I got going on. I'm trying to post a lot more content lately, and just cool stuff. I'm going through all my Chimera archives in my basement right now, and just finding all sorts of cool articles and stickers and posters and merchandise and really cool stuff. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you know exactly when new videos are coming out. I plan to have videos coming out all the time. And don't forget to like this video if you did, and comment below with any questions you have. Thanks so much for watching, and as a token of my gratitude, and to spark your interest in that album with Anders I got coming, right off into the sunset with a little taste of Brontosaurus from my new album with Anders Herrick. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time on Everything You Love.